All right, Jeff, it is time for you to ask a question. Here's the big thing about the question. It doesn't have to be deep or profound because what happens is I realize the question is always just a starting point to allow a conversation to go into a direction that you think you'd like to know more about. So, what have you got?
You know, I went into the world of being like, oh, what's the profound question I need to ask? Doug, how are you doing?
How am I doing? Um, well, I would say on many levels, if like I asked you earlier about reflecting on 2020, I think 2020 has the one thing I'm very clear on is how important for me, besides the kind of conversations like this, where when I'm speaking, I'm thinking. That's when I learn what's actually in my crazy head. So one of my strategies is I get in my car, I press record, and I drive and I talk. And every now and again, it's so good I get it transcribed, and and kind of yeah, it's but the thing that I miss the most in this year, it's not the travel. Travel is not, people often go, wow, you get to go all around the world, all these exotic places. And yeah, actually the places are quite arbitrary. It's the people. And I think that's what I miss the most. And it's it's quite an interesting thing because when I come home, I'm very good at disconnecting. I I have a different kind of community out here. And it one of the guys that I've asked to help me filming some stuff is a guy that I went to school with. He surfs, Steve, and he's a personal trainer. And we see each other often enough. And I'd said to him, Steve, I think I'd like, if you wouldn't mind, coming. Can I film some stuff with you? I'd like to teach you what I do, um, and film it, because then it's as though we're doing a workshop because you're seeing it for the first time. And he's like, yeah, sure, cool. Doug, what do you do? And it's really funny because people go, what do you mean? You guys spend hours chatting. I say, yeah, Steve's got an amazing, wacky brain. And I love hearing his insights and the way he works. And we have conversation. Yeah, but how come he doesn't know what you do? Because my job is not to shove what I do in people's faces. When somebody asks, and it was quite, the second time we met and chatted about it, he's like, dude, you took so long, I decided to Google you. Geez, you do a lot. I didn't know this. I just thought you go overseas and it's like, I think the why miss the traveling is I've one of my strategies obviously was go out there, go to Hong Kong, and bring this component and learn and interact. And that doesn't happen. Like I'm not overly keen on running workshops in Cape Town anymore, because I can remember years ago when I used to run programs for over 70s, and then one day walking in a shopping center and having three little grannies going, oh, it's him, Douglas. Woo. And actually, there was a part of me that was, wow, that's so cool. And there was another part that went, never again. Because it's like you have to be on and you have to be able to switch off completely too. And the thing is that when I travel, I switch on as I leave the airport, as I leave Cape Town, and I don't switch off until I land back. And it is always a fascinating thing. But when that is what you've done for 16 years, it becomes a part of your framework, a part of your backbone, and finding ways um, to create different frameworks. And this is obviously everybody in the world is having to do this. But my experience is the thing I miss the most is that connecting. And part of it is, if you imagine the one, two, three, and I was chatting few weeks ago with Nina, and basically I was like, dude, this is actually what it is. It's breathe as one, zone 2 is move, and zone 3 is connect. Because when you breathe and you move well, then you're connecting gets it on a far more powerful level. So that connecting is a very important thing. So the that interacting with the community and people is a big part. And so I think 2020 has shown me how important that is, and how important it is to honor that and nurture that, but also recognize that it's not necessarily just, because I'm being nice and this is what I should do. It's actually because it feeds me too. And sometimes what happens is we find ourselves in a role with our clients and with the people we work with where we feel like we're always giving. And sometimes we need to change the question and say, when I'm giving, what is it that I am receiving in return? And one of the big things for me is a space where I get to do these conversations and let the craziness come out of my head, so I know what I'm thinking. And the more I know what I'm thinking, the more I know who I am. So when I teach and travel around the world, every time I finish, I know Doug better than I did 2 weeks before. And that is a very interesting component when I realized and recognized that. And so, there's certainly a great yearning on that connecting and finding that place. On the other side, I can also had the thoughts of just like, I could just vanish. That's the wonders of Africa. You just step off. Like this morning, this morning when I sent out like the SOS yesterday, Niels also got back to me straight away, so I chatted to him this morning. And when I woke up this morning, the good African thing is we got an alert saying there's probably load shedding this morning, which means they're going to turn the electricity off. They haven't done it for ages. Now they didn't, because Cape Town's on a different grid, but it just means that someone's getting silly. There's usually some kind of political drive behind that to create a discomfort, and create discomfort. People will, you change behavior. But it's that recognizing that the connecting is really important, and it's important for me, and it's important for the world that I communicate with, and the world that I see as well. And so I think that recognition is it raises the commitment to myself for the community, if that makes any sense. And
try that one more time. I didn't quite catch that.
Well, it's maybe because I don't quite, but it's raised my awareness of my commitment to what's going on here. Because one of the things that people often, this work feels like I've been doing it my whole life. It's just like breathing. It's always been there. I can always see it. And so sometimes what happens is it looks so simple, and sometimes people see that simplicity that I put it into as what is the word? Almost being flippant, but it's not. Mm-hmm. Because it's big, but yet when we can trust the process that we're doing, we can bring all these other aspects to it. When last year, I think it was, I was in Scotland, and they were saying there's a stand-up comedy club, and I'm like, well, I want to go there. I'm going to go teach activation at the stand-up comedy club, and it's going to be friggin' hilarious, because it's like I just had probably about a 2-hour period in that workshop where just ridiculously funny Doug, in my mind anyway, just was running the one-liners while teaching. And I was like, geez, am I really this funny? And obviously that was rhetorical because I don't want to know. I think I'm freaking hilarious. But it's like, can you trust your framework, the framework you've created for your practice, the way you work, to to bring in the other sides, that the joy, the laughter, the fun, and if we need to go to really dark places, because you trust the framework is going to hold all of those things. It's you've seen it on workshops where people can drop to those very dark places, and we don't go, oh shit, we go, awesome, we're there with you. The framework allows us to do that. And I think it's that face to face, that physical connection that is seriously important. And I think I'd never fully recognized the how important it is for me. So it's not just that the teaching is important, but it's that connecting that's important too. So I really look forward to when kind of that starts up again. So um, yeah, I think so. So how is Doug? Doug is good, but it's been a very challenging year on a different level. I won't say it's been profound and the best year of my life, as you said, but that's okay. Um, it's how I've always chosen to learn. I'm actually just going to quickly close that window because that usually means the wind has changed direction and my neighbor's alarm sets when they're away. Um, Yeah, I got up, looked out the window, and forgot what I was saying. Wow. Okay, so this year has been really bad for my mental health.
Well, I wonder if you've so something I've seen a lot of is my clients who have they've lost an identity of one variety or another, or there's been a shift in identity, and they're so focused on their present on the present and future versions of themselves that they almost don't take the time to say goodbye or to thank the identity which has been lost that they've transcended. um, and I wonder if that and one of the components of an effective session that I have is if I create a space that allow if I can with them create a space that allows for them to thank that identity, or to kind of to let that identity to acknowledge that identity's existence, and that it's gone, and that it's no longer necessary, but it doesn't need to be excised. It doesn't need We don't need to slam the door, but we are going to ask it to take a step back. That's what I think of, is for somebody who's a 3-3-3 arm, it's thanking that arm for all the great
Oh
work that
yeah,
it's done.
absolutely. You want to be recognizing and saying, I'm alive because you were the strategy that was chosen. It might not have been comfortable, but I am alive because of that strategy. Yeah, I think the
You
thing about the world having to like sit at home is it's kind of, if this were normal life, then because throughout this year everyone's gone 2020, we just got to get through it. And now the realization in people's reckoning is, well, it's not just 2020. It's not like there's a magical, and on the 31st of December, we go back to normal. We reset the clocks. Woohoo! And the thing is that it's in my next email, which is about the central governor fatigue theory, and literally how the brain holds us back, holds energy back for preservation, because it knows you're probably going to have to do more there and do more there. But the longer this is played out and the longer we have no end points, the more the body has to disconnect us to save energy. So it says, I'm going to let you almost do nothing because we don't know how long. It's almost like a hibernation that people are going into, because I don't know how long, winter is coming. No, winter's here, but we don't know how long it's going to last. And it's not like, somebody said, like, it's like Groundhog Day. Yep, that too. There's a whole lot of those different variations going on. And so there's, yeah, I can't wait to get back to that stuff. But at the same time, if it never happens, it's okay, because I've already been building other strategies and other things that, and not even strategies, but ways of being that makes it okay. Not as many as I'd like. And it's kind of it's fascinating, because what I'm been doing is drawing up a list of things that I seem to really not like. And then I'm going to ask the question, why don't I like them? And usually that's because I might think that I'm inadequate or incompetent doing them. So therefore, it's a good reason to bring judgment. And then I'm going to go learn those things and see afterwards if I still don't like them. Just because it's I've had the space and time to consider that, when you choose a path, you actually also choose a limitation. And so when you are doing what you said before, creating this world with the worlds in momentum, well, what it does, it automatically dictates that there's a whole lot of stuff you don't have time for. Now, the irony is everyone had a shitload of time, they just couldn't leave home, so they still couldn't do anything. but it does offer the opportunity to say, when you've always gone this way, why not that way? What is over there? And what is over there? And I think I used to be better at that, but then life happens and you're on the next plane. So yeah, I think what we were talking about in the first part of everything that you're feeling falls into this big pot of your life, this database of experience. And people often ask me, like, why do you do crazy things, or how did you learn this stuff? Or and there's a lot of answers, but I think that what I've done very successfully is my goal has always been to grow my database of experience. And I feel that maybe in my busyness I've stopped doing that. And the database of experience is to go and feel the really shitty stuff, and to go feel the really good stuff, and to put yourself on those edges and ledges where it is terrifying, it's scary, where you can jump off or you can choose not to. And all of those allow one to confront yourself and know yourself. And then when you know yourself better, when something comes up in somebody else's world, some part of you goes, I know. And they go, what do you mean? I know that part that you're dealing with, because this is how I dealt with. Does that, and you can mirror. And in that moment of mirroring means meeting. So we talk about meeting people where they're at. If I've only if I've chosen the industrialized version, and the decisions I've made haven't really been much, I've got quite a narrow focus, so I can have great conversation in this focal point. Anyone that's going out there, I'll just stare blankly at them and go, oh, that's nice. Yeah, very nice, awesome, and try and take the conversation back there. I think our goal is to expand not only our physiology and our visual field, but our database of experience, so that we do find ourselves in places where we learn more about ourselves. But what it does, it expands the kind of people you can connect with, and the kind of people therefore you can help, if that's the goal of what you're doing. So yeah,
the broadening, the narrowing happens on, we have the kind of the physiological narrowing, a visual field narrowing, but a narrowing one's experience of life is also a survival strategy. And
it's also called getting older. It's a pattern that we see as we get older, and we claim we have greater responsibilities. Therefore, shouldn't do that and I won't do that. You know, I remember watching when I was at school, I played squash. I don't know if you know what squash is. It's kind of like racquetball, but it's the longer. And and I only picked it up in my final year of school. It was just something that, why did I do it? Because I picked up the racket and I could play and play well. And what I remember was there was a guy at the club that I used to play at that was near my house who was exceptional. He would like skip for 5 minutes before going and playing and demolish everyone. And I think he turned 40, maybe it was 45, maybe it was 50, whatever it was. I don't know. I was young, I didn't really care, but I still remember seeing the shift in him. And he went to his doctor, who told him very clearly, almost his certainty was more certain than this guy, that he was now of an age that squash was no longer serving him. It would put him at risk because, and he'd probably have a heart attack on the squash court because of the way he played. And I just remember literally watching this guy going from absolute machine, animal, inspirational to an old guy who was very age appropriate in a couple of months. And I was like, what's that? And I asked my coach, and he said, well, I asked him too. And he said, well, my doctor said I must, and went, and I was like, whoa. But he goes, I know, you know, and it was bizarre because my squash coach at the time was a big man, tall, very big. But frigging hell, the whole idea of squash is that you dominate the center, the tee. And he could damn well dominate the tee. So therefore, he would just beat the crap out of you. And I was fast and I was agile and I could run circles around people. And he would dominate the tee and I would die. And it was amazing. So he shouldn't have been on a squash court, but he was, because he didn't believe what he was. Someone else would have said, dude, you're going to die. The super fit dude, he did. So he bought into this. We're going to say you have a bad line because someone's dying in the background.
No, my wife is having a bit of a coughing fit in the other room.
Ah.
The line quality is fine. There is somebody dying in the background.
Pepper is strangling your wife. No. But it is always interesting. So how quickly, as we reach certain milestones, there's a tendency to limit our database and to make it smaller and smaller. And I don't want to do that. And yeah, you know, I think for me, definitely my surfing is one of those things that I see it in a lot of surfers, that you want to push yourself and you want to keep competing at the level that you were, and you can, but there's a cost. And so surfing is brilliant because you have to take care of yourself or the ocean will punish you. And you know, it's like, I love it. It's if you ever want an accountability, get in the ocean. It's you're never ever going to be bigger or more powerful in the ocean. So it's far easier to arrive and be humble and kind of go, thank you. And you know, and when you don't, it goes, and you know, my family knows, a lot of people know. It's like, I get questions like, wow, Doug gets hurt a lot, you know. Yeah, he's really bad at this activation stuff. Yeah, he's also stupid, but he also is pushing his database of experience and kind of and it's a choice, you know. It's fun. And so even, you know, we were talking about the array of emotions. You can feel sadness, you can also feel pain, you can also be lying there crying in agony because you did something seriously stupid. So the question is, should you have just not done something stupid, or did you make a decision to do it? So therefore the pain's okay, because it's the consequence of life. Consequence is important. I don't think there's enough of that in the world, by the way. I think if people could actually take more responsibility and have more consequence to action, I think we'd have an amazing world, and all this weird chaos that we see around us would be sorted out really quickly. But because everyone's just, you know, is allowed off. You can do anything you like under certain circumstances, and that would just be bad parenting if that's how you brought up your kids. Why would it change at all? Obviously, I seem to be going on to a different, more touchy subject, so we won't go deep into there because we're closing this. But yeah, it's I don't mind coming up against myself because it's me learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting when you said it's called getting older. I had this visceral response because I was like, Huggin, the idea of longitudinal age does not compute with my does not gel with my conception of Douglas Heel. and it's the myth that we believe of.
Yeah, for
It's the
sure.
story that we tell about age.
No,
And
but I
it's
think
and realize.
But it's that environment that we're in. So every time I do something silly and injure myself, it's amazing how the environment around me goes, well, you're getting older. And it's like, shut the hell up. I'm only friggin' 28. What? That's not old, you know?
Have been for the last 15 years.
Yeah. Geez, that'd be nice. Yeah. No, the thing is that, yeah, it is all a game in the mind, and it's whatever you believe, you're right. And but the thing is that if it's kind of, and so it's, who are you listening to? Where are your influences coming from? Because that's also dictating all of those things. And I think that there certainly are days in this year where I actually didn't feel like I was 28. But for the last 20 years, I have felt like I'm 28. I've got stuck in time. I live in Groundhog Day. And this year is the first year, maybe, when I've had moments where I've gone, God, I'm just an old fart after all. But that is what it is. It's kind of, but there are other times where I feel younger, and 28 feels old. And it's all about how well I'm connecting in with myself and my physiology, and being allowing of whatever comes up. It's all good. It's all good.
It is all
Cool.
good. And that's it is. That's the great thing. We get to choose how we respond to it. Or if we respond to it, how it hits us.
Yeah. Or how we choose to hit it.